and you had time to make yourself familiar with the material for today's session. And if not, we will hopefully find time to make you familiar with at least part of the content. So today's meeting, it's on practical application of PsychFlex. And you have, if you had time to look at the material of Paul's and Robert, so you have seen the matrix already, and we will have a look at that too, sure. So you will feel comfortable with the tool. And part of getting into PsychFlex is being attentive to yourself, having a good conscience of yourself and of your feelings. And so the grounding we're having today is some of spending some attention on your body to actually realize how you feel and get a good feeling for yourself. So I'd like to invite you to just come into yourself and just let your thoughts float around a moment and close the loops that were running in circles in your head maybe right until now, and let them just go and be just here with us. The thoughts that were accompanying you until now, you might just want to let them blow away like leaves in the wind for the moment. They will come back whenever you need them, you can be sure of that. And just let them go for the time we are sharing together, so you can be here and fully here with us. And if you want, you can close your eyes or you can keep them open and let them unfocus a bit if you like to. And just have a feeling, how's your body today? Where do you feel some tension? Where are you feeling relaxed already? Take a deep breath and feel your chest moved by the flow of air. Feel the cold air streaming into your nostrils, being warmed by your body, widening your chest. And when you breathe out, feel the warmth your body has put into the air, going into the world. And then you might want to move down to your feet and just feel each and every little toe, one after the other. And then we move up a bit through the feet, the soles on the ground, maybe in shoes, I don't know. Feel your ankles, lower legs, the way you're sitting, the bent knees and tension somewhere for keeping you upright. The upper legs, somewhere touching a chair or wherever you may be sitting. Feel the clothes wrapping your legs, keeping you warm. Your bottom carrying your weight, cushioning your weight on the chair. Feel your belly being moved by your breath a little or a little more, wherever you direct the airflow to go. And then have a small attention moving to your backs, also moved by the air while you breathe. Sometimes there is some tension in the torso, the chest and the shoulders. If you feel like moving, you may do so. Release a little tension. Be aware of the shoulders and the arms that are next to your body. Feel your elbows. Something most people seldom feel consciously. And your arms, the hands, each finger. Keep a little attention on the fingertips, the very, very fingertips, all at once. Try to feel them all at once. Both sides. And then come back with a little speed up to the shoulders. And check your neck. How does it feel today? Does it feel like it wants to be moved a bit? Why not? And then feel your face, the muscles, your nose, the eyebrows, the forehead, the hair, your scalp. Just be there in your body. And then you might want to have a look on a different level. Have a look at themes and topics inside your mind. Things that pull you towards where you want to go. And things you'd like to leave somehow. Maybe behind, maybe just a bit, but and just explore the wanting to go to and wanting to leave feelings, how they differ. So you might be able to recognize them better in your everyday. And then take a deep breath. And come back into here and now. And in your own time, open your eyes and be with us. Thank you. All right. So I hope you had a little grounding and you're right here and feel focused on the session. And we want to jump in right away, and we invite you to explore the point of feeling something that pulls you toward, to explore it a little more. And we're going to put you into pairs in breakout rooms just by coincidence again. So you might end up with someone completely new and interesting. Yeah, in any case interesting, but maybe also someone new you haven't talked to yet. And we want to invite you to just have an exchange on what is a relevant leadership area for growth for you. And we want you to define leadership very broadly. So it could be something at home, at work, a family topic, something in your personal life. And just explore in what context or situation could you practice this leadership and growth area for you? I put it in the chat, so you have it in the chat to have a look at. And Anna is going to set up the breakout sessions. And then you have about 10 minutes to explore the two areas of growth, so one for each of you, and discuss a bit and get to know a little more also in during this discussion. Do you have questions about the breakout exercise right now as a start? No. Good. So Anna, would you please open the breakout sessions? Thank you. There will be one group of 3 and the others will be 2s.
Natasha, do you have a question?
Oh, you have to start your mic. We can't hear you at the moment.
It's the quadrant, yeah? The with the
Right now, no. Just
Oh.
discuss the question for now. We come to the
Okay.
quadrant later.
Okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Thank you for asking.
All right.
Anna?
Anne, are you there? Anne might have stepped away. She was actually in Natasha's group. Oop.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
So, we hope you had an interesting discussion and you all found some things you find interesting as leadership areas of growth for you. And we would like to invite you to put in the chat like just a bullet point. What is your area of growth? Just how you would name it. That would be great. So for David, it would be centering corrigibility repairs. Betsy says staying focused on the project and as much as possible avoiding negative distractions coming from outside. Mm-hmm. Thank you. For Dave, it would be adaptive leadership. And Mark, holding on to things I have developed and leading on them, cultivating them rather than just letting go of them. Tanya puts in giving positive and negative feedback. Mm-hmm. For Petri, it is as entrepreneur, working alone, leading myself from current work role to a new one, starting something new. Oh, wow. Interesting. Kaylee, ability to reach, empower, and heal those who need it most. And for Kim, taking time to set the process, noticing others' needs. And Amy puts in helping to effect change within groups. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think Anne still isn't there.
Okay. Well, I think I can go into
Yes, I
the
think so.
section now. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for for taking part in that discussion. It's kind of setting us up for what we're going to be discussing today, which is psychological adaptability in the context of your leadership or leaderful role. So for today, we already went through the grounding exercise and then the leadership discussion in pairs. We're going to be now reviewing the personal noticing tool. It's also called the adaptive bridge or the ACT matrix. We're using these terms very flexibly. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of that. And then I'm going to be demonstrating how I would fill it out on myself while you work on it on your own. We will then be putting you back into the pairs that you were in earlier to debrief and talk about your reflections on using the tool, and then we'll do a checkout. And as I go through this, I will also stop and ask if anybody has any questions from this brief demonstration, as well as the asynchronous information. Yeah.
So it would be great if you had something to write with you, so you could, at the same time while Anna talks herself through the matrix with her own topic, so you can work on your growth leadership topic you just put in the chat. That would be what we invite you to, or you could pick something else, but this was what we would invite you to fill in your own matrix with this leadership of growth topic you want to work on anyways. So if you don't have anything to write, you could just go and grab something really quickly, or if you don't want to, don't feel so, you no pressure, but it would be an invitation to do so.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Maika. So yeah, this is the personal noticing tool that we are going to be going through together. So I will pause here just for like a minute. If you need to go grab a piece of paper and pencil, this is what we want you to be working off of. All right. And so the purpose of the personal noticing tool, the ACT matrix, the adaptive bridge, is to really just kind of get us to think about a situation that we might be getting stuck with a little bit differently, a little bit more adaptively. As you can see, we are separating this into our inner and outer experiences. So the top half is going to be what's happening in our insides, our inner thoughts and feelings. The bottom half is our outer actions. What would other people see us doing in response to those inner thoughts and feelings? And then on the right side, it's how we're moving towards our values. On the left side, it's how we're moving away from our values. And then at the very bottom there's a question that prompts us to hold lightly both sides as we move forward. So I'm going to be going through each of the 5 questions. And that's really supposed to help us guide. And the goal of this is to increase our repertoire of behavior. So in every situation, we want to be thinking of the context, and we want to be approaching it in a way that's not reactive, but proactive. And by having a tool like this, and if you get very comfortable with it, you can even do it without a piece of paper, and you can just be thinking about these 5 questions. It's really just meant to get us to expand the range of possible options that we can choose from. Now, before I get into running through this myself, I wanted to just open up to see if anybody has any questions from the asynchronous modules at all. No, okay. Wonderful. So I am going to be sharing my screen, and I like to use Miro. So I'll be going through this. So if you want to think of the situation that might be, maybe it's related to the leadership role that you are trying to work on. For my situation, I am thinking about my leadership role in a new project that I'm working on. It's a storytelling, a participatory storytelling model, where I'm facilitating community members and trying to evoke opportunities for them to share their stories. It's currently unpaid work, but it's something that I feel very passionate about, and it's something that I'm kind of balancing amidst all of the other things that you need to balance in your daily life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting up in this upper right corner. What matters most to me about being part of this team? And in a lot of ways, we can think about the goals, the values, and the needs that you have in order to thrive, as well as like, what's your North Star? Like, what is guiding you towards this? And for me, my North Star is I'm really interested in community building. And again, this is all up in more so in the head. So it's the inner thoughts that you're thinking about. And I also want to mention that I'm doing this very linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have experience running through a matrix, or you want to jump around, that's also fine too. Sometimes people like to go back and forth between what am I thinking about for my values and what's also kind of getting stuck and in the way. But first, I'm just going to be starting out going through it very linearly. I think another thing that is driving me forward is meeting others, like-minded others. I also feel like it's really important for me to be able to contribute my skill set to important campaigns and grassroots organizations. This is how I'm able to contribute and make a better world. And I also, my goal is to develop storytelling practices in community. And in a lot of ways, you're also going to be thinking about how you are, like what you are attending to in this moment, what seems to be your big focus. You're also going to want to think about your thoughts and feelings as well, and your context of yourself. So in many ways, I feel very, it gives me a good feeling to get out into the community and be talking to people that I don't normally talk to and hearing their stories. And I really value uplifting others' voices. So any questions so far? You can also feel free to like raise your hand or shout out. I can't see everybody, but if you want to interject at all, please feel free. Now we're moving into the bottom part of the matrix, which is the observable behaviors. So if I were living in line with these values, what would I be doing? And in this context, if I was really living in line with this leadership role, this member, a member of this team of community members that are trying to tell stories, what I would be doing is I would be listening to others who have different perspectives. I would be making myself available and going to where these community members live. I think that I would also be focusing on community members who are typically not included in conversations or whose voices are not typically heard from. And really taking my time to get to know the landscape, like what is out there, being able to do a little bit of research to know like what are the important storylines that want to be told in my community. All right. And so from here, these are all moving kind of towards our values, those good feelings. Obviously, if we were talking about just our goals and all we had to do is set our goals and move towards them, that would be great. And we would probably already be doing that. There's also a lot of things that kind of get in our way. And the whole purpose of this, this tool is to acknowledge kind of the sticky sides of things that might be preventing us from moving forward. There's obviously always going to be some physical concrete barriers that we need to work around or work through, but in a lot of ways, we oftentimes are our own barriers. So thinking about then like what is going on inside our head that can get in the way of us moving towards 1 and 2 here. So for me, when I'm thinking about like what's getting in the way of me being able to act out all these values, a lot of it is I don't have time. You know, I have a lot of other work to do. I have family members, friends, conflicting values. I think that one of the things that you can think about too in this noticing tool is that sometimes things that in a different context, spending time with family and friends could be on the right side. In this context, that's actually what's getting in the way of me moving towards my values for this particular project or with this group. I also have a bit of an imposter syndrome. You know, am I even the right person to do this work? How am I going to be able to facilitate participatory storytelling? Do people find me compelling enough to be able to lead a project like this? I oftentimes also have a lot of fear because I can get overwhelmed with so much stuff going on that I don't want to put more work on other people. So I'm self-conscious about asking people to engage in things. And as you're going through on this side, I think that there's a lot of things that can also pop up here that can kind of indicate some values as well. So like my self-consciousness about asking people to engage in things. Well, that's because I really value the people that I'm talking to and I value their time. I really value my relationships with them. So I want to make sure that whatever I do is truly going to be in their best interests. I value doing good work and putting out a story that other people find interesting. Again, going back to the what am I attending to? What am I valuing? What are my needs? Thinking in the same things that we were listening to in our conversations last week. I think that just overall, it can be a lot to hold and make sense of. sometimes there's very complex stories that how do I even kind of put it onto a page, and it becomes overwhelming to be able to convey something that I'm seeing and hearing and feeling. And then the final part of the matrix then is going to be going into like, what do I do when I'm hooked on these thoughts and feelings that are up in this third quadrant here. This can be adaptive. It can also be maladaptive behaviors. Really, we don't want to be parsing this up into good or bad. It's really just kind of holding this in a very kind and compassionate light. So some of the things that I do when I'm feeling this imposter syndrome, like I don't have time, like I am not the right person to be doing this, I give up, or I procrastinate, and do other things that are unrelated. I might also seek support from a friend. Luckily, I'm not doing this by myself, so I have people to bounce ideas off of. I might second guess myself, or maybe I don't appear as confident when I'm talking to others about my project. I think that I also have the tendency to take on trying to like prepare myself a bit more by taking more courses or doing something that might be somewhat tangentially related, because I think that it will bolster my self-confidence in some way, but I'm not actually doing the work. So over preparing, I guess. And as you can see, that one part of this question is like, how workable are these strategies in the long term? So as I mentioned before, we don't want to separate into good or bad. It's really more thinking about like helpful, unhelpful, and in the context of the present moment. There are going to be times where I really need to procrastinate. I need to do other things, and that's okay, as long as if I'm zooming out and looking at the trajectory of how things are going, that I'm being adaptive enough and going back and forth between these different quadrants. Sometimes you need to be on the left side. There's different terms that people assign to this, where like sometimes people call the right side of the matrix thriving, the left side is surviving. Surviving needs to happen sometimes. We can't always be thriving. And as you notice in the middle of this, as we're going through this, we want to be noticing the two dimensions of our experience, both top and bottom, inner and outer, and right and left. For those of you who did complete the asynchronous modules, Paul talks a lot about how psychological flexibility and adaptability is really focusing on not being so fused with your thoughts that you see yourself as these thoughts. I'm feeling self-conscious. I don't have to be that way, and I don't have to be that way always. It's not who I am. I'm noticing that I'm feeling self-conscious. I think that that's very worthwhile to talk about. Any questions so far or comments? Great. Okay. So then the last question, number 5, is what strategies might help me to hold the left-hand side of this map with awareness and self-compassion while still acting in the direction of what matters. And so when I take a look at what I'm feeling around this project, I think that I know that I want to move forward, but in many ways, I need to be kind and gentle with myself. I need to notice that there are, like, I have significant needs, and both personally, emotionally, physically, that I need to attend to. So providing myself with enough time to attend to those needs. And maybe forgiving myself if I end up not holding to a specific deadline that I had in my head. I also think that what I'm doing is very, very new, and maybe some people won't understand or see value in it, but I have been able to meet a lot of people who do find value in what I'm doing. So holding on to the fact that, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. I also think that one of the things that I could do as well is to really be full of gratitude for the people that I am working with, always, and showing up and being present and making sure that no matter what it is I'm feeling, that when I'm with them, I'm feeling full of gratitude for their time. Okay. So I want to invite you to just take a look at what you have on your page, and maybe we'll take just 2 more minutes to finish up. Maybe add something that you noticed as you were going through your left side that really indicates a value, or maybe another strategy for moving towards your values. And as you're finishing up, I also want to just invite you to take a step back and just look at the whole of the matrix. I think sometimes we can get so zoomed in into certain thoughts, feelings, goals, needs. And when we're able to take a step out, we're able to separate ourselves a bit, become that observing self. And so as we do this, I want you to just invite you to reflect, take a deep breath, and just honor the experience that you have. Maybe just let your mind relax a little bit and wander through your thought process here. You can just sit in silence for a moment. Connect to your breath. All right. And when you are ready, you can return back to screen. I am going to be reopening the original pairings that we had so that you guys can take about 15 minutes just to be able to reflect on what this experience was to you. Maybe this is the first time you've done it. Maybe you practiced a bit this week, or maybe you're familiar with this, with matrix and personal noticing tools from before. So when you enter into your pairs, I just want you to share a little bit, however much you feel comfortable sharing from your matrix, and also just sharing your experience. Does anybody have any questions, comments, anything before we go into the breakout rooms? Great, okay. And again, you have about 15 minutes.
Hello.
Great. Well, I hope you all had some generative discussions. Wanted to take some time now to hear from you all in kind of a larger group format, how that experience was for you. Does anyone like to share first?
I'll share a little bit. So I didn't do the activity alongside. I actually did this activity a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to, in a couple of weeks, I think I'm going to come and revisit and do it again. But like one thing I was noticing is that as you were doing it, Anna, and you were going through, I really enjoy that. It was very valuable for me. One thing that I noticed myself doing is that I found myself, instead of thinking about my own thing, I was so fully invested in your story. And I was thinking, like, what could I say to her to kind of, what insights could I give her to kind of help her kind of work this, like I was so focused on you. And then I looked at what I had done a couple of weeks ago, and I had kind of realized through this process that like one of my big values is creating harmony and helping people feel fully whole. And it was just so funny that I was like, literally, I was like listening to you and trying to do that in my head with you. Like it's like, that kind of that is, one of the things that one of the negative kind of sort of values, or the negative behaviors that I tend to do is try to kind of jump in and solve everybody's problems. So I noticed myself doing that even mentally in my head with you. So that was a useful exercise for me.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Kaylee, because one of the things that as you were talking that came up for me was that this is a tool that I use quite frequently in my work with my therapist patients, especially for children with autism, because this is actually a great tool to teach perspective taking when you flip it around for somebody else. So you can do it for yourself. You can do it for yourself within the larger context of the group. You can do it as the group doing it together, and you can also do it as somebody trying to take the perspective of others. So it's really quite flexible in that way. And I think it does bring out a lot of like, how does that relate to my personal noticing tool when I hear somebody else doing it for themselves?
Just might add, it's also a flexible tool. There was some unclearness in another cohort I was co-facilitating. It's a tool like a spoon, so you could eat a lot of different things with it, and you can eat it alone, and you can eat it as a group. You can eat it a small portion or even a pot full. So it's a tool. It's not meant to be used just for one purpose. Feel free to experiment with it. Feel free to do it with a group. Feel free to do it with yourself. Feel free to do it with another person. Feel free to do it as perspective taking or as enhancing your own flexibility. It's a tool.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Maika. Well, I'm curious if anybody else had any other things that were going on through their head, maybe was a little bit different than when you did it on your own. Mark?
I think I said something really similar last week, but I used the Matrix so much, and there's a part of me that was like, oh, I'm going to do this again. I do it with people every day, and just to be honest about my feelings. And then I had exactly the same experience again. It just sort of really renewed not renewed, but just reinforced my faith in the Matrix. Like every time I do it on myself or I do it with someone else, I could have done it 1,000 times. I just find it really, really useful and helpful in a way that I'm sort of wary of some tools because they can feel really reductive to people and stuff. But I find the Matrix just isn't. It's just incredibly flexible, and yeah, I find it really, really helpful all the time.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Maybe there's somebody who wants to share who has never used the Matrix before, and this was the first time, either today or in the past couple of days. Kim?
I could share.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever, oh, sorry, Natasha. Yeah, this was the first time I ever used it. I mean, I used it a few days ago going through the course material. And yeah, found it extremely useful. I found that in the first section, this question, like, what success look like? I was kind of taking a bit too much of a observable behaviors perspective on it, kind of looking more at kind of, okay, what would success look like in terms of if somebody was watching, instead of internally. And so Anna, you going through it today was really, really helpful because I both had kind of very similar the experience, or what I was thinking about was very similar to your own, and so it was really helpful to go through the categories, and I realized, okay, and that makes a lot more sense for kind of my own thoughts. And then this going kind of starting with number 3, thinking about what I feared, what I had anxiety about, and then flipping them into values was really useful, because I found that it then I was able to fill more of my own inner values into number 1. And one thing we had discussed in the group, I'm still kind of a bit unclear on the difference between values and needs. And I was wondering, I don't know if anyone else has, but I have trouble seeing the difference, or is there a difference? I mean, the examples were kind of, honesty could be something I value, but it could also be something I need from others. So I was wondering, maybe explain, because number 1 says, goals, values, needs, that kind of thing. So this
Yeah. I think that's a really great question. And I think with everything, is there I think getting too stuck on words also is not necessary, but the way that I vision it is like values is your North Star for you. So you can never achieve those things. You can live in alignment with them. Your needs are often things that the external environment can give you. So you need others' honesty. You value honesty in yourself. So a lot of times the values that you have can also point to what you need, because you value honesty for yourself and others. You need others to be honest. So little nuance there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
great,
if you go in the material from earlier sessions, so Paul's distinction is needs are the essential requirements you have, really the essentials you really need to do something, need to exist. You can't be without. And the values, he says, is a quality a behavior can have. Like you can behave honestly, you can behave compassionate. So this is a distinction Paul is making in the earlier material.
Great. Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
And then I saw Natasha, if you want to share too.
Yeah, it was just a little, a sweet little imagery I had of myself on this line. This your 2 different selves, this one self that is super enthusiastic and really excited about all these wonderful things that you can do, and this bubbly little girl and then on the other side, the scared, shy, one that hides and is full of doubt and fear, and in a way how these 2 selves kind of need to see each other and meet and just look after each other. And I mean, I could just see my 2 selves, being pulled on that line, and that was fun to kind of watch. So I just wanted to share that.
I love that imagery, Natasha. Yeah, it's beautiful. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah. So I do, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 other people if they want to share. Again, if this is, you can share your experience with this, or maybe some of the internal dialogue that was going along as you were completing it for yourself. If nobody else has anything to share on that line, maybe I would also be interested to hear if anybody has any sort of strategies for some self-compassion as you're going through this. you know, is there something that you have found to be really helpful in holding that balance between, you know, having these goals and these values that you want to achieve, but you haven't yet, kind of recognizing that balance.
I think words like acknowledging, recognizing, trusting, honoring, the moment those words come in, something dissolves there on its own. And it kind of works its own magic, but it's to make that step to acknowledge, to honor, is what helps me.
Thanks, Natasha. I see Betsy muted.
Yeah, a couple of things that have been helpful for me. One is somebody a long time ago said, acknowledging that this is hard, and then just saying, you know what, this is difficult, whatever the situation is that's pulling me away or that's distracting me or making me anxious, and like acknowledging that it's difficult and that's okay. And that doesn't mean I have to quit or, you know, go along with it. And the other is make, sometimes this may sound kind of contrived, but it works for me. Like, I know that there's something that I can do that's a concrete step, and I can do it right now, and it will move me in the direction of my values, but I'm just resisting it. And if I just sort of make my body do something, like I make my finger click here on my computer to open up the page that I need to work on, like a little physical movement can actually go a long way towards getting me in the right direction, or making my body get up from here and walk over there into the other room. It's like I force my body to do something, and then my mind and energy often starts to follow.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good, I imagine you kind of getting we called like the left side of the matrix kind of like sticky thoughts. You can get stuck in them, and like you're actually like physically moving yourself to help unstick yourself, is what I'm imagining.
Yeah, it's like that.
Thank you, Betsy. And I'm going to pass it over to Maika, who's going to run us through a quick closing activity.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, also from this point of compassion and self-compassion especially, so there are very good reasons why you have not yet achieved what you're striving to achieve. There were reasons why you could not, you did not, you decided not to move, or you haven't moved all the way yet. And to just acknowledge that this has also been for a good reason. And it's also, if you filled in the left side matrix, there are very, very acknowledgeable points that your psyche let you know why you have not yet moved, or you could not jump right away into the right side of the matrix. And just as Natasha said, just by acknowledging this and just taking it with you into everyday life, and then there comes something in which Betsy said, just maybe moving one step, but realizing now, being able to realize, oh dear, I made one step into the direction I want to go. Interesting. And this is also the small exercise, or the small invitation I'd like to offer, just to go into next week and just observe yourself. And now we come back to something from the grounding exercise. There is a certain kind of feeling of towardsness if you are acting from the right side of the matrix and moving towards something that's valuable and important to you. And then there's a certain different kind of feeling within your body when you move and act from the left side of the matrix, from getting away from something you do not want. And just take this into your next week and just observe yourself. This kind of feelings, when and where and in what situations am I moving towards, or am I moving away from something? And just get an awareness of yourself, and there may be some insights in that, and just being there, being attentive and being self-compassionate, and just seeing what you do and feeling what you do often starts to make differences in everyday life. So this is the invitation I'd like to offer. And now I'm handing over to Anna.
Yeah, thank you, Maika. So I wanted to close out today with a final poem by Rumi that I feel like kind of speaks to that self-compassion, that dualistic kind of experience that Natasha spoke to. Okay, so if you want to just close your eyes and get a little comfy. So this is the guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep into your house, empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And I would like to invite everyone, as we're parting today, to just put something in the chat, maybe a word or two of what you're going to be taking with you from this session, moving forward with your day and your week. Mark says, practice what I preach. Yes. I always need to work on that too as well. Tanya says the body sense of away and towards. Yeah, beautiful. Amy, a different perspective. David, experience innocence. Dave says moving toward pending and challenging conversations. Betsy says noticing the feeling in my gut when I do and think about various things. Yes, it's very important. Tasha says following my North Star. Kaylee says imagining success. And Dave says holding myself accountable too. Yeah. Kim says noticing my values. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Petri, yes, thank you. All right, we'll see you next week, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye all.
You say bye-bye.
Bye bye. All right.
Yeah.